Brock Lesnar isn't just a name, it's a brand, a legacy, and for WWE, a goldmine. From smashing opponents in the ring to taking his powerhouse persona into the UFC, Lesnar has built a reputation as the Beast incarnate. But not everything about Brock's story is as polished as WWE would like you to believe. Beyond the championships lies a web of controversies, including a connection to a lawsuit by WWE's former employee, Janelle Grant, which explains why he has been absent from the WWE. Brock Lesnar's mysterious absence from WWE. Brock Lesnar is an accomplished American professional wrestler and a former mixed martial artist, amateur wrestler, and professional American football player. Known for his dominance in WWE and UFC, has always been a standout figure in professional wrestling. From his powerful F5 move to his commanding presence, Brock grabs attention whether he's competing or not. Brock's WWE career has been nothing short of legendary. Debuting in 2002, he skyrocketed to fame, becoming the youngest WWE champion in history at just 25. Over the years, Brock has delivered countless jaw-dropping moments, from ending The Undertaker's undefeated streak at WrestleMania 30 to his brutal rivalries with top stars like Roman Reigns, John Cena, and Seth Rollins. He's been a cornerstone of WWE's biggest events, headlining WrestleMania and dominating SummerSlam. However, things have gotten a little complicated for Brock lately, and his absence has raised a lot of questions. A lot of people feel the WWE is hiding something. Brock hasn't made a single WWE appearance since SummerSlam 2023, where he had his last WWE match against Cody Rhodes. Fans were buzzing with rumors about his return for the 2024 SummerSlam, expecting the Beast to crash the party as he often does. But when the event rolled around, Brock was nowhere to be found. Instead, an NXT star stepped up to take his place. Since the match script was already in place, Braun Breaker stepped into Brock's role. He entered at the same spot, eliminated the same opponents, and exited the ring in the same way Brock was supposed to. This adjustment reportedly occurred late on Friday or early Saturday. Dave Meltzer explained that Brock Lesnar was initially scheduled to appear at the Royal Rumble, but plans changed due to the lawsuit involving Vince McMahon, filed by Jane Grant. Janelle Grant, a former WWE employee, accused Vince McMahon of violating their NDA and halting agreed payments. According to the Wall Street Journal, McMahon allegedly shared explicit photos and videos of Grant with others in the company, including production staff, executives, and a former UFC heavyweight champion. This athlete, who WWE later signed to a new contract, was reportedly among those McMahon tried to involve in inappropriate situations, including trying to set up a sexual encounter between her and a WWE superstar, alleged to be Brock. While Brock's name isn't officially tied to Janelle Grant's lawsuit against Vince McMahon, John Laurinaitis, and WWE, all signs point to him being the former UFC heavyweight champion and WWE superstar mentioned in the sexual abuse allegations. Since those allegations surfaced, WWE seems to be slowly erasing Brock from their universe, giving themselves enough distance from him. He has been removed from several events and programs related to WWE and replaced with other superstars. First, he was pulled from January's Royal Rumble at Tropicana Field. Then, reports confirmed he's not involved in any plans for Elimination Chamber or even WrestleMania. As if that wasn't enough, WWE removed him from their popular Supercard mobile game and is allegedly downplaying his role in other licensed content, including his removal from the cover of WWE 2K24. Another big sign is WWE's online store. Almost all Brock Lesnar merchandise has been slapped with massive discounts, like they're trying to clear the shelves as fast as possible. According to PW Insider, WWE's online store has placed 99% of all merchandise related to Brock Lesnar on discount. It's easy to assume it's all just a coincidence, but insiders say it's all part of a larger effort to distance the company from Brock altogether, or maybe until the legal storm surrounding McMahon settles. This fallout isn't just a bad look for Brock, it's a PR nightmare for WWE. Sponsors like Slim Jim even pulled their support after the scandal surfaced, though they've since returned following McMahon's resignation. According to both insiders Mike Johnson and Fightful's Sean Ross Sapp, Brock is now completely off WWE's creative radar. Johnson was told he's off the table, meaning no storyline pitches, no surprise returns, no nothing. His image is missing from promotions, he's been axed from creative plans, and his presence in games like WWE Supercard is being phased out. It has even been reported by Wrestling Observer newsletter that even if WWE's creative team wanted to bring back Brock Lesnar to the ring, the legal team needs to clear him first. One of the most confusing aspects of this situation is the lack of official comment from either WWE or Brock himself. WWE has a history of addressing controversies head-on, or at the very least, issuing vague statements to control the narrative. But in this case, the silence has been deafening, only briefly addressing the lawsuit without mentioning Brock. Brock, known for his reserved nature, has always let his actions in the ring do the talking. But with no matches on the horizon and no word from his camp, fans are left hanging. During the post-WrestleMania press conference, Triple H clarified that Brock Lesnar is still a part of WWE and isn't completely gone. However, he was home, just being Brock for the moment. Lately, there has not been any news of the Beast's rumored returns, but Paul Heyman mentioned Brock during the Hall of Fame speech, and even Michael Cole name-dropped Brock at King and Queen of the Ring 2024. While no new updates have emerged regarding his potential return, there's a role he could seamlessly step into upon his comeback: Adam Pearce's enforcer. Over the past several months, Pearce has faced mounting trouble from his superstars, culminating in him taking an RKO from Randy Orton at Crown Jewel. Having the Beast incarnate by his side could serve as a powerful deterrent, keeping others in check and giving Pearce the freedom to assert his authority without interference. It's unclear whether this is truly the end of Brock in WWE. In a world where surprises are the norm, anything is possible. However, given the current circumstances, it's hard to imagine Brock making a comeback anytime soon, especially given the significant influence Vince McMahon has had on his career. The Vince McMahon effect. The Vince McMahon sex trafficking scandal is one of those stories you'd find hard to believe. Vince McMahon, the longtime boss of WWE and the man who turned professional wrestling into a global juggernaut, is at the center of some seriously disturbing allegations. A former WWE employee has accused him of sexually trafficking and assaulting her at WWE's headquarters in Stamford, Connecticut. Vince McMahon, born in 1945, isn't just any wrestling promoter. He's the guy who took his dad's regional wrestling company, the World Wrestling Federation, WWF, in 1982 and cranked it up to 11. Through the 80s boom, he made it a national and eventually global phenomenon. The WWF became WWE, and McMahon became the face behind some of wrestling's most iconic moments. But his business empire has always had its share of skeletons in the closet. Fast forward to June 2022. WWE's board of directors was tipped off about a hush money payment, a big one, $3 million. That crack in the armor led to an investigation that uncovered a whopping $12 million paid out to 4 women, 2 of whom accused McMahon of sexual misconduct. This wasn't McMahon's first rodeo with allegations either. Back in 1992, a former WWF referee, Rita Chatterton, claimed McMahon raped her in 1986, and in 2006, a tanning salon employee accused him of groping her. The 2022 investigation prompted McMahon to step down as WWE CEO, handing the reins to his daughter Stephanie McMahon and company president Nick Khan. But Vince wasn't going to stay on the sidelines for long. By January 2023, he was back as executive chairman, even as rumors spread that WWE might be up for sale. Then in September 2023, WWE merged with UFC to form TKO Group Holdings. Vince landed himself the executive chairman role. It seemed like the man just couldn't be stopped until January 25, 2024, when the real bombshell hit. A former WWE employee, Janelle Grant, dropped a lawsuit in the U.S. District Court for District of Connecticut against WWE, McMahon, and former WWE head of talent relations John Laurinaitis. She alleged that McMahon had sexually assaulted and trafficked her and sought to void a non-disclosure agreement, NDA, related to the incidents. She argued this under the Speak Out Act, which renders such NDAs illegal and unenforceable, and claimed the agreement was also invalidated by McMahon's failure to fulfill his contractual obligations under the NDA. Grant, a former paralegal who used to live in the same apartment block as McMahon, alleged that McMahon recruited her in 2019 after the tragic death of her parents. But instead of finding a supportive workplace, she described horrifying experiences. Among the allegations, she claimed that in May 2020, McMahon and one of McMahon's personal friends participated in a threesome. During the encounter, McMahon reportedly defecated on her. After briefly leaving to clean himself in the restroom, the incident allegedly continued for another hour and a half, while Grant remained covered in feces. She also claimed that in June 2021, McMahon and WWE exec John Laurinaitis allegedly cornered her, assaulted her, and took turns restraining her while the other attacked. She begged them to stop, but they forced themselves on her. The lawsuit also alleged that McMahon used her sexually explicit material to entice a world-famous athlete and former UFC heavyweight champion to renew his WWE contract. The Wall Street Journal later identified this athlete as Brock Lesnar. Things reportedly got so bad that McMahon's wife, Linda, a former WWE executive and politician, found out about the whole mess, threatened divorce, and forced Vince to negotiate a $3 million non-disclosure agreement, NDA, with Grant. But even after signing that, McMahon allegedly tried to assault her again. Grant also alleged that key figures in WWE were fully aware of the conduct and actively sought to conceal McMahon's wrongdoing. The scandal came at a terrible time for WWE. Just 2 days before the lawsuit, WWE had inked a massive $5 billion deal with Netflix for media rights, and on the day of the filing, former WWE wrestler Dwayne "The Rock" Johnson was appointed to TKO's board. Sponsors were not happy. Slim Jim, a snack food brand and longtime WWE partner, yanked its sponsorship for the Royal Rumble event scheduled that week. Pressure mounted, and by January 26th, McMahon announced his resignation as TKO's executive chairman. WWE even scrubbed his profile from its official website. Slim Jim announced the next day that it was resuming its sponsorship of the Royal Rumble. Meanwhile, on February 1st, 2024, co-defendant John Laurinaitis' lawyer, Edward Brennan, told Vice News that Laurinaitis was also a victim of Vince McMahon's coercive control and planned to base his defense on that claim. Ashley Massaro had been raped by someone posing as a U.S. military doctor during a WWE tour in Kuwait. This contradicted WWE's earlier statements claiming they were unaware of the incident, though Laurinaitis denied any cover-up by the company. 2 days later, Vice published a previously unseen statement from Massaro accusing McMahon of targeting other female wrestlers. On March 11, 2024, Front Office Sports published an article revealing the identities of 4 unnamed corporate figures mentioned in the lawsuit filed by Grant. Ann Callis, Grant's attorney, confirmed that the identities were accurate. The first 2 corporate figures described in the lawsuit as McMahon's fixers were identified as WWE President Nick Khan and WWE CEO Brad Bloom. These 2 executives were allegedly involved in assisting McMahon with managing the situation. The third corporate figure, mentioned only once in the lawsuit in an ambiguous context, was identified as Stephanie McMahon, Vince McMahon's daughter and former WWE CEO. Finally, the fourth corporate figure was identified as WWE's former general counsel, Brian Nurse. He was accused of treating Grant with hostility within WWE's legal department. On April 1, 2024, the New York Post published a love letter, supposedly written by Grant to McMahon, dated December 24, 2021. The letter was reportedly taken from Grant's work laptop during WWE's internal investigation. Callis argued that the letter was written under duress, suggesting it was not a voluntary expression of affection. On the other hand, McMahon's attorney, Jessica Taub Rosenberg, contended that the letter served as proof that Grant was not coerced or assaulted by McMahon. The lawsuit is a whirlwind of claims, counterclaims, and motions. McMahon tried to move the case to arbitration, citing the NDA, while Grant's legal team argued the NDA itself was part of McMahon's intimidation tactics. The Department of Justice stepped in by May 2024, asking Grant to pause her lawsuit for 6 months as they launched their own investigation into McMahon. While Brock hasn't publicly responded to the lawsuit and has not been directly named, his name being linked to this case could have significant consequences for his WWE career. If the allegations are true, it would not just tarnish his reputation, but also raise serious questions about the environment in WWE, particularly under McMahon's leadership. WWE has always presented itself as an organization that celebrates athleticism, talent, and entertainment, but this scandal would be a huge blow to that image. Brock's involvement, even if indirect, could lead to a number of outcomes. The public might demand accountability, and WWE could be forced to take a long, hard look at its internal practices. But even without being directly named, Brock is already feeling the consequences. WWE has distanced itself from Brock, and this has led to his absence from major WWE events like WrestleMania. However, there's also a possibility for Brock to return to the ring if the storm blows over. WWE is, after all, known for moving on quickly from controversies, especially if the financial benefits outweigh the risks. It's not impossible that, given his star power, WWE could offer a smooth pathway back for Brock after a period of scrutiny, particularly if the legal aspects don't impact him directly. There's always the chance that Brock could distance himself from this scandal, keeping his professional image intact, or at least doing enough to make it work with the company's current leadership. For now, all eyes are on the legal proceedings. The outcome of this case could shape the future of not just Brock's WWE career, but also the company's public image moving forward. However, this is not the first scandal Brock has faced. Throughout his career, he has been involved in even more direct and serious dilemmas. Brock's many dilemmas. Brock Lesnar, the WWE champion, has found himself in some sticky situations throughout his career, and one of those was back in January 2001 when he was arrested for allegedly possessing steroids. He was only 26 years old at the time, and just in the early stages of his wrestling career. The arrest happened in Kentucky while Brock was training at a WWE facility. Cops said he received a package that they claimed contained a large amount of steroids. After being charged with trafficking in controlled substances, it turns out that Brock was cleared. 4 months later, the felony charge against him was dropped. The tests on the seized pills showed that they weren't actually steroids. The Louisville detectives, who initially thought they had him, later suggested the pills could have been some form of growth hormone, but Brock's lawyer, Scott Cox, disagreed. Cox explained that the pills were more like vitamins than anything else, and that the officers seemed very apologetic once the lab results cleared Brock. It's a strange turn of events. The whole thing could have easily derailed his career if those pills had been what the police thought they were. But the question remains, how exactly did the authorities jump to the conclusion that Brock's package was filled with illegal substances in the first place? We may never know for sure, but Brock came out of this one unscathed. Shortly after, he faced another dilemma. Brock Lesnar really turned heads during his early run with WWE from 2002 to 2004, where he quickly made a name for himself by defeating The Rock for the WWE Championship at SummerSlam and even headlining WrestleMania. But just when things were starting to heat up for him in the company, Brock shocked the world by leaving WWE in 2004. So why did Brock leave WWE? Well, according to him, it wasn't just about the money or fame. He was burned out from the crazy travel schedule and physical toll that comes with being a WWE superstar. On top of that, Brock had bigger aspirations. He wasn't just looking to be a wrestling star. He wanted to see what else he could achieve in other sports like football and MMA. In his autobiography, Death Clutch, Brock shared an interesting tidbit. He and Vince McMahon had a secret meeting where Vince offered him a new contract. But it wasn't exactly what Brock had in mind. Brock thought it was pretty disrespectful and, being the competitive guy he is, wanted a deal that better suited his value. At the same time, New Japan Pro Wrestling, NJPW, came knocking, offering him a contract that seemed way more appealing. Brock was ready to make the leap to Japan but had some concerns. And this was because WWE had a non-compete clause in his contract, and if he wasn't careful, he could end up in a legal mess with Vince McMahon. Fast forward to 2005, and Brock Lesnar boldly decided to leave WWE. He headed to Japan with his wife and trainer, Brad Rheingans, to see what opportunities awaited him there. But as you might guess, things didn't exactly go smoothly. WWE wasn't happy with the idea of Brock wrestling anywhere else and quickly sent their lawyers after him. They threatened him with legal action, trying to enforce that non-compete clause. So what did Brock do? He filed a lawsuit against WWE. He argued that the non-compete agreement was unfair and should be thrown out. Meanwhile, he was trying to reach a deal with NJPW because he needed a paycheck while this whole legal thing played out. In the meantime, NJPW wasted no time and started promoting Brock for a big triple threat match. WWE, of course, wasn't happy and tried to block it. But despite their threats, Brock got to compete in the match, and not just one, but a couple more in 2005 and 2006. But before one of his big December 2005 matches, WWE tried to stop him by filing for a temporary restraining order, TRO, to prevent him from wrestling in Japan. It was a tense moment, but Brock's legal team fought back, and the judge sided with Brock, letting him compete. By 2006, after all the legal wrangling, Brock and WWE finally reached a settlement. On April 24, 2006, the case was officially dismissed, and Brock was free to pursue his career however he saw fit. And, as you probably know, that led him to the UFC, where he achieved even more success in mixed martial arts before making his massive return to WWE in 2012. Another dilemma he found himself in was the plane ride from hell. Brock is called the Beast Incarnate because of his brutal dominance and intimidating presence in the ring. But it turns out he has had moments where he unleashed his beastie side in real life. There was this WWE chartered flight filled with wrestling legends like The Undertaker, Vince McMahon, Triple H, Kurt Angle, and of course, Brock Lesnar himself. Everyone was winding down after the Insurrection PPV in the UK, heading back to the States. And then out of nowhere, chaos broke out. Kurt Hennig, better known as Mr. Perfect, was intoxicated and ended up putting shaving cream on Brock's head, probably thinking it was funny. Brock didn't find it funny. In fact, he went full beast mode. Matt Hardy recalls Brock picking Hennig up and slamming him into the emergency exit door like he was a rag doll. This was a full-on body slam at 35,000 feet on a plane full of WWE's biggest stars flying over the Atlantic Ocean, and Brock nearly opened the emergency door. Matt Hardy said if the door had opened, they would have all died, but somehow they all survived. As much as the incident was terrifying for everyone on board, it didn't end well for Curt Hennig. After that mid-air brawl, WWE didn't exactly take it lightly. Hennig was actually fired after the flight, which marked a rough end to his third run with the company. And that, ironically, was his last WWE match, losing to Matt Hardy in May 2002. Brock's dilemma continued in 2023 when Curt alleged that Brock contributed to one of his neck breaks in the ring. Kurt Angle, a highly decorated amateur and professional wrestler, was once told that he was one wrong move from a tragic death in the ring during the height of his run in WWE. In a 2023 episode of his podcast, Curt shared a story from a match. "Brock Lesnar hit me over the head with a chair and he brought it. I mean, when I tell you he brought it, he really brought it. And by it, he means a steel chair to Kurt's head, and not just any chair shot. Brock swung at full force." Meanwhile, Chris Benoit, who was also hit with a chair by Brock that night, had warned Brock ahead of time, saying, "Hey, hit me sideways. I had neck surgery, so go. Easy on the headshots." But Curt didn't say a word. And guess what? Brock went over the top and whacked Curt so hard it broke 3 of his vertebrae, bone chips in the neck, 2 discs pushed into his spinal cord. Curt messed himself up again with his neck for the 3rd time in a row. Regardless of what happened between Brock and Curt still thinks highly of Brock.
I mean, that kid is so talented. It doesn't matter what he touches. Whatever he touches is going to turn to gold. That's how talented he is.
Brock Lesnar isn't all about smashing skulls in the UFC octagon or tossing people around in the WWE ring. He also goes into the Canadian wilderness where he got into a bit of legal trouble during a hunting trip. Brock's not just a fighter, he's also an avid hunter.
And Brock comes up to me and says, "Hey, I hate traveling. I can't take this anymore. I can't travel overseas all the time. I like to be home. I like to hunt and fish."
But things went sideways in southern Alberta, where he found himself tangled up in a hunting infraction. He was charged with improper tagging of a mule deer during a hunting trip the previous year. Now, for those who don't know, when you hunt, tagging your kill properly is important. It's not just about taking home a trophy, but following ethical and legal hunting practices. But Brock missed that memo. Apparently, he shot a mule deer buck, but instead of bringing back the meat, which is the ethical thing to do, he just packed up the head and left the rest behind. Brock ended up pleading guilty, was slapped with a $1,725 fine, and had his hunting license suspended for 6 months. Now, there were some additional accusations like leaving meat to rot and illegally possessing wildlife, but those were dropped. Leaving edible meat behind is considered a big no-no, almost sacrilegious if you're serious about hunting. Anyway, this little hiccup in his hunting adventures didn't seem to faze him too much because just 10 days after the court ruling, he was back in the spotlight, preparing to take on Alistair Overeem at UFC 141. If you found this video interesting, click on any of the cards on your screen to check out more exciting stories about it.